Did I finish that one? No, I know I did. Okay, here it is. Marriage contract bears fruit by adding children. Sometime later, the marriage fails and divorce results. The contract continues in its existence. The contract continues in its existence, even if it results in divorce. So for those married more than once, you're still got a problem. Okay. The divorce is merely a contractual dissolution or amendment of the terms and conditions of the contract. Jurisdiction of the state over the marriage, over the husband and wife, now separated, continues over all aspects of the marriage. Over marital property, over children brought into marriage, over spousal support, child support, visitation, education, health care, etc., etc., etc. The state has a say in it forever. That is why family law and the domestic relations court calls divorce a dissolution of the marriage, because the contract continues in operation but in an amended or modified form. He also pointed out that the marriage license contract is one of the strongest and most binding contracts the state has upon its people. Just because you got married with the state. It's okay to get married with your spouse through God, the right way. At the end of our hour-long meeting, I somewhat humorously asked if other people had come in and asked the same questions that I was asking. The assistant replied that in the many years he had worked there, he was not aware of anyone else asking these types of questions. Can you believe that? He added that he was very glad to see someone interested in the legal implications of marriage license and the contractual relationship it creates with the state. His boss, the Young Marriage Bureau department head, stated, "You have to understand that people who come here to get a marriage license are in heat. The last thing they want to know is technical, legal, and statutory implications in marriage license." The marriage license, as we know it, didn't come into existence until after the Civil War. It didn't become standard practice in the States until after 1900. It became firmly established by around 1920s. And then law, which develops over time through case law, it really doesn't. Okay, I'm trying to say their laws do that. In effect, the states or governments appropriated or usurped control of marriages in a secular form, and in the process, they declared common law applicable to marriage licenses abrogated. Yep. It's on the websites, it's on the Telegram channels, it's on everything I do. I want you to have full non-disclosure. Okay? Eventually, you can have it in one place like this. Go talk to Gwen. She can't work enough hours for me. I'm just keeping her. She's just staying so busy. Huh? Always. Just got to move to Texas and get stuff done. All right. I think I answered this one already. What's the difference from your AOR process and Anna's 1779 Naturalization Act? Well, she's quoting some pretty good history there. That's about it. That's all she does. I don't care. Remember what I said earlier? I think I was standing right over here. When I said, a lot of people come to me and say, hey, I'm the state national. And I say, well, let me ask you one question. Have you under the pains and penalties of perjury, send an affidavit of repudiation of your citizenship declaring your status to the Secretary of State of the United States. Served it on them properly, and recorded the unrebutted affidavit with the county. And then you should get your passport that reflects that status. If you haven't done that, you can't fill out paperwork with Anna and give it to her group who goes and puts it in a file cabinet in somebody's garage. It does nothing. It's that simple. You're not a state national unless you can prove it. I think we've gone through that today. You've got to prove things. Your whole life you've been screwing up and check marking boxes. You got to unwind the clock and prove your intent. Okay, it's that simple. That's the one document that does it. Get your AOR in. It's the most important thing you can do. Your Freedom Bundle helps solidify and helps build other strengths. And then get your passport that reflects the status. That's your proof that you're operating in the private, so you can travel properly. See, what does the Constitution say? Be safe in your papers and your effects. Oh, well, that means you might have to show them to some officer somewhere. You might be with the military, you might be with civil, you might be something, but you got to show your papers. If you don't have them, well, sorry about your luck. Try traveling to another country with her stuff. Hey, we got a great phone call about 2 weeks ago. Let me tell you about it. This phone call, okay, well, let me just lay the groundwork. I have to. It's not going to make as much sense if I don't lay the groundwork. We have a wonderful state national. He was a career military officer in the United States Navy. He's a great man, and I'm very proud of him. He's in Pennsylvania, and he has been a great state national and a pain in my ass. It's okay. I don't mind those. He has to prove everything. He's got a 21-year-old daughter, which, my gosh, I love Connie. Connie, she tears those police up. She's like, what? She just tears them up. Man, she goes in and she goes to her, she is so active. She goes to all her city council meetings, all her county council meetings. She goes into her courthouses. She goes and educates the county. She'll go talk to the damn governor. She's not afraid of anything. She's great. Well, her dad has a sister. And her sister, several years ago, married an Australian. Sorry about her luck. But anyway, she married they're great. Just kidding. Anyway, they up and moved to Australia. And when they first got married and moved over there, well, they didn't have the time or the money or whatever to come back and visit family. And then COVID hit. And then she couldn't really visit family. And they're so strict in Australia on COVID. It's unbelievable. I mean, they're just tearing people up over there. Anyway, she lost her job. So she started looking around for a new job, and she got a new job with Qantas Airlines. And she thought, oh, this is great. I don't make as much as I did before, but I might get to fly somewhere close to my family, and then I can visit them. I haven't seen them a long time, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it's been, right? So she thinks this is great. Well, Australia has been very strict on their travel policies. With you got to have this Australian visa stamp in your passport, blah 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 blah. All these things, and with Australia, in order to get the Australian visa stamp, even if we want to go over there, well, then we got to have all the COVID crap. Who wants that? Well, I haven't been in Australia in a while. It's been 5 or 6 years since we've been over there. You know, I put on state national stuff in Australia and New Zealand. I'm an ambassador for New Zealand, so it was great. I mean, Leland. Let's call him by his middle name. Anyway, She calls up and she says, "You're never going to believe this. Australia and Qantas Airlines has decided through international law that we have to have the Australian visa program that we've had this whole time, but we can accept American state nationals without all the requirements." Now wait, it gets better. I'm just getting to the good part. She says, "And we're adopting it today, immediately." That was about 2 Mondays ago. Now, here's the good part. She said 12 other countries have adopted it, and within the next 7 days, all the airlines in all those countries are going to accept the American State National Passport too, without the requirement. Things are getting better. Once you become a state national, how do you continue to be a licensed professional? A realtor, a mortgage broker, an attorney? Well, nobody wants to be an attorney after I'm done with them, but you can still practice law, right? You can actually perfect it if you're not an attorney. Therapy Barker, I'll show you how to make a living helping people with what's lawful. That's it. Now, the other ones. Mortgage broker. That's probably harder than a realtor. I got a good friend who's a realtor. He no longer has a license. His business is set up in a PMA. He no longer is a member of the MLS. And he's one of the most successful realtors I know. He sells more land than you can possibly imagine. And some of those lands happen to have a house on them. He stopped selling real estate. He sells land. He sells land in California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, sometimes in Idaho, in Oregon, Southern Oregon. He sells land because he can sell land. And free men don't ask permission. Isn't that cool? Who said you have to be a licensed real estate broker? Go sell all the land you want. He doesn't deal with other real estate brokers. He goes and lists the properties and sells the properties, and now he's so damn rich, he just goes out and buys the properties. Sometimes he'll put them in land patent, and then he'll sell them. Sometimes he'll buy 1,000 acres, split it into 160-acre pieces, or 80-acre pieces, or 40-acre pieces, or 20-acre pieces, and sell them all. And he's making tons of money. Drives a beautiful, brand new Range Rover. And he's a great guy. He'll even do a deal with you. You want to buy a piece in Nevada? How about 10 acres in Nevada? $495 down, $395 a month. 6 years, you're paid off. You know. He can do that because he went and bought 1,000 acres and he divided it up into pieces. And he's quadrupling his money. I dropped one. That's the horrendous one going on with her right now.
Real quick on the professionals, you know, AMA controls medical doctors through the threat of taking their license away. So the state national, would they be?
Yeah, here's the part they don't know. If I was a medical doctor, I'd say, here,
Well, yeah.
take that damn thing.
You need to, you know, for chiropractic. So.
Now I go start a PMN and do whatever I want. And if my customers like me, they're going to come see me. I did my first PMA for my chiropractor. And I've done more than 80 holistic doctors. You know. do about 1,500 PMAs a year. That's how I supported this Senate. I still do PMAs occasionally, but I'd rather farm them out to some of my smart people and let them make them. You want a good PMA? Don't try and do it yourself right up front. And another thing is this. I'm going to warn you right off the bat. Do not Google PMAs. Because that dang bar association has screwed them up for everybody. They treat them like a different type of a corporation. The idiots.